Hey, so I'm getting some frequently asked questions and I want to answer them here. I'm going to pretend you're sitting right there because guess what? I don't want to be on camera. It's not that kind of day and I'd rather focus on you as opposed to you studying me. So, the first question with regard to speaking on stage, and Christina asked, I understand authenticity and vulnerability, but I have had a personal stance not to share specific details about my personal story, but rather paint a bigger generalization. Jen, what is your stance on this? So, Christina, this is an awesome question, and this is common for a lot of people. You want to share some things that are personal when they resonate with the audience, but not so much that you're divulging things that people don't necessarily need to hear. Let me give you an example. So when I have spoken in the past in a public forum and I'm referencing something like, my daughter came to me when she was younger, and she expressed in a specific situation, Mommy, I am so scared. Mommy, please make this stop. This was a very vulnerable moment, a moment I was relating that my daughter came to her mom with something that was really, really important. And I then went ahead and talked about why I felt I was cowardly because I didn't put a stop to the person who was creating the problem. Because I realized that any action on my part would actually escalate the situation. And so what I did was I used that example. I talked about the shame I felt not being able to be responding to my daughter, and that I still, even 15 years later, feel so sad about this. And that she was asking for help and she was scared, and then I felt impotent to do anything. And so I stared out a window, hoping the whole situation would resolve itself, hoping and praying, because I knew if I tried to intercede, it would make it worse. And I felt unsafe, and so did she. Now, that's one example of me sharing a feeling of impotence, a feeling of shame, a feeling of sadness and regret. What I didn't share with you just then was who it involved, the very specifics of the situation, because that would have been too much as far as divulging something personal, not just about me, but about other people in my life. That isn't my place to divulge things about other people in a public forum when I speak or podcast about them. If I want to share something vulnerable about myself and how I felt, that's one thing. But considering family members and other people I know, in this case, it was my daughter and other people in the situation, I only wanted to paint the picture so much. Does that make sense? So in that situation, hopefully you could feel the shame, the regret, the remorse, the sadness that I was relaying through that personal story, but I didn't go into such personal details that I would betray the trust of anyone else or offer things about me that other people don't need to know or maybe haven't earned the right to hear about. So it's a really important question Christina asks about being authentic and being vulnerable when we share our stories from a stage or on a podcast or in other more public contexts. But I respect our personal stance not to get into specific details about our personal story. We really have to decide what's personal and what is private. And we're definitely in a time frame now where people will get on stage or on social and absolutely vomit is actually the word, personal things that are not necessarily appropriate for that space all the time. And so we really have to be wise there. But ultimately, it is up to you and your personal comfort level. By and large, what I would say is that you want to look for something that creates resonance, and you give enough details that the audience that you are trying to impact can find themselves in some aspect of that. So in my case, it would have been shame, feeling impotent, feeling powerless, feeling regret and remorse. Will people relate to those feelings. They may not have been in that particular specific situation, but they may relate to my feelings. So when you're sharing authentically and vulnerably, remember, people aren't necessarily responding to or resonating with the specifics. They're resonating with how it made them feel. And they recognize how it made them feel when they hear you speak about it and how it made you feel or respond in a certain situation. I hope that makes some sense. So you really do get clear on what's going to be kept private and what can be used publicly. And a lot of that comes with time and speaking as well, and the audience you're in. There may be some that you go, no one in this audience is ever going to know the specifics of this situation again, or the people involved. I can feel safe about it here. But you ultimately have to determine the safety psychologically that you feel in each situation and speak from that space. Hope that helps.